Now this is something that comes up quite a bit. What happens if you were to buy, let's say, a frame direct from China? How's the quality? Is it worth it? Is it going to break right away? Is it just complete crap? Let's take a look at one and compare it to a name brand bike that is very similar. This is my direct from China bike frame. You can get it from AliExpress, eBay, or even Amazon. It's what you might call an open design, one that's not patented by any specific brand. It's just a frame with kind of a modern design and unlabeled. Now, there are people who will argue that Chinese frames are made on the same production lines as name brands. I don't think that's true, but that doesn't mean they're crap. I mean, they might be, but it's not guaranteed. This frame is aluminum and it features a modernish head tube angle, reach, and a 4-bar rear suspension with a horse link on the chainstay. Again, pretty common. It has the cutouts in the frame for cables, but no guides in the frame for the cables. The welds are clean, and the weight isn't bad at 8 pounds. The price fluctuates, it seems, between different sellers and time of year. You can still find it on AliExpress for as low as $4.39 though, without the shock. Now this frame is actually pretty comparable to the older Giant stance. Now I actually have a 2023 stance to compare it with. And the name of this brand is the Himalo, or Himalo, but probably Himalo. Now the Himalo compares pretty well to this stance. The finish though isn't quite as nice and it's not as fine-tuned. It also is a little bit heavier, but the ride is pretty comparable. Now, why would you buy this over, say, a new stance or even a Polygon Sisku? Well, the initial price and the ability to put the parts you want on it. Now let's look at my case. I had several parts already on an old bike I could bring over that saved money right up front. I could also pick the parts I wanted to put on the bike, not what the manufacturer wanted or wanted to keep the price down to give me. But this isn't necessarily about price, but about choice. Okay, maybe a little bit about price. Now let's take a look at my build. We got a large frame with 27.5-inch Stan's Flow wheels. Pretty nice wheels, modestly priced. The front suspension is handled by a Rockshox Yari. It's a nice fork, it's not bad. The rear uses a Marzocchi Bomber Air and is a really nice shock. I will say the one thing that I really dislike about this shock is there is no indexing on the adjustments. There's no click, click, click. There's no little buttons, there's nothing. It's smooth, so it's kind of hard to dial it in or change it the way you want it for certain trails without marking it maybe with marker. I don't know. Up front and rear, I have Shimano XT brakes from previous build. And then, of course, there are my Goldix cranks. My sweet, sweet Goldix. Now these are 165 millimeters. They're from a previous build. But if you had wanted to get a set of shorter cranks just to test and play around with, these are a good option. And it was like, I don't know, 36, 37 bucks for the cranks, a chain ring, and a bottom bracket, which is pretty sweet. They're also my Crank Brothers egg beaters from a previous build. I have a Wolftooth Geo Shift headset on here just to change the angle. I found that climbing with this, with just a straight up headset, you know, it would pull back. So I put that on there, and it's, I think it's 1.5 degrees more forward. It's just a better handling bike. Up front, we got a little Amazon Fun stem. You know, nothing special there, but it works. We got Trail 1 carbon bars, previous build. We got a P&W Loam dropper over here. right over here. We got an ergon seat right up top. I like my WTB seat better. It's a nice lightweight saddle, and again, that's from a previous build. Now for a transmission, we got a SRAM NX GX kind of mix. You can see we got the NX rear derailleur, and we got an actual GX cassette, and we got the NX shifter pod up top. It's nice. It works just like the more expensive ones. Now here is a giant stance. This is a 2023 model. It's a medium frame, and this is my wife's bike. This is the bike she wanted that came all set up that I wouldn't have to fix for her because she wanted it to ride right. Wow, vote of confidence there. Anyway, you can see this is a lot like the Himalo frame, right? I mean, you can see we got an aluminum frame, we got a 4-bar linkage, we do not have a horse link in the back, which is a little different. Probably save a little money there. I think that's one of the reasons why the Himalo bike rides just a little bit better. What you get for around, I think this was around 1,500 bucks at the time, was you get a full suspension bike, you get set up with some decent wheels, you get some nice tires, but you get all Suntour parts. All right, this is a Giant branded fork, but I believe this is Suntour. You can see we got a Suntour Air shock here, and we got some Giant branded cranks. We do have a Diori LX drivetrain. It is a 1x12, which is nice, and it comes with the Giant dropper, which is not terrible. It sticks a little bit, but it's a nice bike. It's not bad. What you do get when you spend a little bit more, like on a bike like this from like a name brand manufacturer, you can see the welds are just a little nicer. This is a medium, so of course it's going to be a little bit lighter, right? But they will just have better tubing. This is going to be buttered aluminum tubing. It's not going to be more like the straight tube like some of the Chinese frames. But this is it's a solid bike. Almost definitely made in Taiwan, not mainland China. So with that, you get a little bit more precision, a little bit more care, especially when you have a brand putting their name on it. So they're going to take the time to do it right because that's their reputation. When you get an unbranded name from who the hell knows where, there is no reputation. All right, let's weigh the two bikes and compare them to each other. Now keep in mind, obviously different parts, right? And one's a medium and one's a large, but let's see what we come up with. Now, all in, what did this cost? Well, it cost $1,200, including the frame and the Bomber Air. The rest of the parts were from a previous build, so already owned, kind of like a sunk cost. Now you see, that's what really makes buying a frame like this worth it. You've already spent some of the money on reusable components. Now, without having already owned some of the parts, you're probably talking in the 3K plus range. For that kind of money, I'd probably suggest getting something pre-built, maybe, you know, like the Intense and the 951 frames they sell at Costco, a really good bargain. Unless you really like the joy, pain, and frustration of building your own bike. So if you got a whole bunch of old parts you're going to use, you're going to buy used, this might be the way to go. You might want to consider buying an AliExpress frame. It might work out well for you. It's worked out well for me. All right, so now you see me put it together. You see me explain the parts that are on it. Now it's time to go out for a ride.